One of the biggest metas in 2025 has been Perp-DEXs. It really started at the tail end of 2024 with Hyperliquid's airdrop, but then it really followed suit with a ton of new Perp-DEXs coming out, including the likes of Lighter. We've seen the likes of Aster. We've seen others that have also done very well. We've seen Perp-DEX. We've seen the likes of Apex. There's just a boatload of different Perp-DEXs out there, and each one kind of doing its own thing. Now, the other thing that's kind of gotten a lot of excitement over the last couple of months and leading into 2026 has been Base and the Base ecosystem, considering the fact that Coinbase, company behind the Base Layer 2 network, is considering a potential token. And if there's going to be an airdrop associated with that, that's obviously going to be very, very exciting. Now, that is a bit more on the speculative side, but either way, that brings us to today's video, where we're going to be talking about a Base-focused Perp-DEX, a Perp-DEX that is built on Base that I think has a ton of opportunity. We're going to dive into everything you need to know about the project, what it's doing, and what it aims to do. If you're new here, my name is Alex. We talk about crypto news, crypto passive income. If you enjoy content like that, consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, smash up the like. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. As we dive into this video talking about the likes of BasePerp, I want to first focus on where are Perp-DEXs today, and more specifically in comparison to where were they a year ago. Now, when you look at that comparison in about this time in 2024, Perp-DEX volume was, relatively low. I mean, we're talking about anywhere between $6 to $10 billion. That is very, very different compared to, you can just look at the chart. The chart is literally a straight, a little bit of just sideways here, but then we started building a ton of momentum, and that momentum is continuing to increase, and I expect that momentum to continue increasing. There's really two main reasons for that, which really fueled the potential for the likes of BasePerp as well. First of all, you're seeing a lot of people moving away from centralized exchanges. Obviously, after the main event, big event that happened on October 10th, where you had the largest liquidation event ever in crypto history. I think it was like $19 billion. It was just absolutely insane, the amount of liquidations that happened. Much of that was due to centralized exchanges. And so even though Perp-DEXs and decentralized exchanges have improved significantly, they're not all perfect. And that is why you're seeing new Perp-DEXs come out of the woodworks, new ones being built, new ones coming out. And on top of that, you're seeing new ones coming out on different blockchains. So for example, BNB didn't really have a Perp-DEX until Aster really kind of paved the way to be the #1 Perp-DEX on Binance blockchain. And we're starting to see even the likes of other protocols we'll talk about as well, vui, which is a Perp-DEX aggregator. So there's a lot of different approaches that you're starting to see where people are moving away not only from centralized exchanges, putting their capital elsewhere, but they're also looking for the next opportunity. If you got into the likes of Hyperliquid, you had a massive type of airdrop in Hype token. Lighter, people are expecting a very big airdrop as well. You're seeing the likes of Aster, those who got into Aster, the token price also went up 10x. So not only did you have a good airdrop, you also had a massive, massive price appreciation. You also had the likes of that with the likes of Hyper. So that all being said, those are the two main catalysts: people moving away from centralized exchanges and people looking for the next opportunity on the next blockchain. And that kind of brings us to talking about the likes of BasePerp, due to the fact that BasePerp has that momentum. It has the approach of not only is it a DEX, but it also is on a blockchain that is gaining a ton of momentum. Base is one of the largest blockchains out there, and on top of that, they've hinted at a potential token and maybe an airdrop coming in 2026. So those two things combined, you're going to see a lot more. I think BasePerp is one of the first. You have other DEXs already, but you're going to see, I think, a lot more getting ready to build, and ones that are probably already building on Base to try to capture that momentum. So a couple of things, when you take a look at, stepping aside from the likes of Perp-DEX data, when you look at Base data in general, it has become one of the fastest growing ecosystems of this year. It has overtaken Optimism as far as TVL, as far as like a layer 2 to the likes of Ethereum. and you have a massive user base for Base, and you have a massive TVL for Base as well. In fact, if you look over, if you can go over to DeFi Llama, you can see. Let's just go over there real quick, and you can see as far as TVL, the TVL on Base right now sitting at $4.2 billion. So, when you look at TVL, Base is up there as far as blockchains. You have a lot of other ecosystems out there, but when you take a look at, let's see here, where would we see Base TVL? Maybe this is just different DeFi applications, but Base as TVL, even if we're looking at that 4 billion TVL, you're looking at Base as a blockchain sitting right here, pretty much in the top 10. So there's a ton of, you can see all these are different staking ecosystems. So a lot of these are multi-chain. So in the end, Base doing very well. And when you look at the overall growth, right, when you take a look at Base and the TVL in the course of, this is from July of 2023, if you look at the TVL from the same time last year, it is more than doubled. So obviously right now everything's cooling down as far as crypto, but Base is still staying really strong. So when you take a look at some of the things about BasePerp specifically that make it unique, because each Perp-DEX has kind of their own approach, has kind of their own appeal to what they're doing. Instant settlement, Base powered, transparency, obviously very key. And then self-custody, no deposits or third-party custody. That is very important for a lot of people. I think one of the things that also is very unique as far as zero fee perpetuals, trade profitably, pay only when you win. And we've seen zero fee trading on the likes of Lighter. So Lighter has zero fee trading. And they also just recently opened up where you can have the fee-focused trading, but you get more points for that. So a bit of a caveat there. But either way, I think this is something very interesting. Trade without upfront cost, fees only apply to profitable positions. So, something like this being a bit unique in their approach obviously does set them a bit aside. And then, as far as different opportunities with the different trading, leverage is always key for a lot of people. Leverage, maybe not the best thing in the world considering a lot of the liquidations that we've seen, but obviously being able to trade with leverage is always important. But I think there's a lot of really cool things about the likes of BasePerp, and obviously you have over 25,000 builders currently on Base, one of the largest amount of builders networks in the crypto ecosystem. And obviously that plays a huge role for people that want to be able to build utilizing some of the tools available through the likes of BasePerp. Now, last thing I want to kind of highlight is the tokenomics. And tokenomics are always important. And sometimes the tokenomics are good, sometimes they're bad, and sometimes they are amazing. So there's kind of like, green, red, yellow, and red. And so obviously a huge amount of the tokenomics are set aside for the public token sale. And we've started to see ICOs become very popular. We saw the likes of the Mega ETH ICO. We saw, earlier this year, Plasma. And obviously depending on how early you get in, typically does play a role into the returns that you get. We talked about multiple ICOs already on the channel. One of those that did extremely well, Avicii, a stablecoin focused payment card, did about a 13-14x return. So it launched at 35 cents and it peaked at $7. So maybe that's a little bit higher. It's almost like a 20x return. So ICOs have gotten hot once again, so we're going to start seeing more of these. And BasePerp isn't the first protocol to do an ICO. In fact, the likes of Vui, which we talked about recently, as a Perp-DEX aggregator, also just did an ICO. They had a target of 500,000. That raised over 3,000% over the target. So very strong support for the likes of Vui, but we're starting to see newer protocols come out that do have the approach for directly a public token sale. And I think with Vui, they had about 10%, 12% that was allocated to that. And each protocol is going to be a little bit different, but here you're going to have a lot of the tokens allocated to the public. So I think that's very important. I think the biggest thing is the unlocks, and that is going to be something that you can take a look at as far as within the white paper. And then everything else is pretty, standard as far as liquidity. Core team, you don't want to see the team getting, over 20, 30%. So a lot of this pretty equally balanced and split up. And then when you take a look at the roadmap, it is still relatively early for the likes of BasePerp. So, as they're getting the word out there, there's a lot of opportunities to research, get in early, and consider what is coming not only for BasePerp, but the entire Base ecosystem. And so, you're going to have some things coming in Q4, and then some of the closed testing coming in Q1. So it is still early, but it is something I highly recommend that you go check out and do some research and due diligence on. There's going to be some more details. Having the insurance pool, always important, especially when you have massive liquidation events. But there's some really, really cool things about the likes of BasePerp. And you can go check them out on X. And go check out their roadmap, check out their tokenomics. Like I said, when you take a look at the ICO itself, they've currently raised, and mind you, this is still early as far as the protocol itself. So they've currently raised about $750,000, and they are, doing something very similar to the likes of Cookie, or not Cookie, but similar to the likes of Vui did as far as raising capital for their ICO. And it's not the first one to do it. There's plenty of protocols out there that have done ICOs. And not only in the Perp-DEX ecosystem, you're seeing the likes of Mega ETH, for example, having done an ICO in their A layer 2 on the likes of Ethereum. So I think in the end, there's going to be a lot more protocols like BasePerp out there, more protocols that are getting into the Perp-DEX ecosystem, not only on Base, but just across crypto in general. So that being said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on not only Perp-DEXs in general, the growth of the Base ecosystem, but a Perp-DEX directly on Base. How do you think it will perform? How well do you think it will do? I'll leave all the links down below for you to go and check this out. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'll leave the links down below for you to go and do your own research and due diligence. That being said, if you enjoyed this video, smash the like. You enjoy content like this, consider subscribing. Until next time, guys, stay invested.